sometimes he would just call me in a Teams meeting and like, Nick, I need you to look at something. Like, okay, Donovan, sure. We hop on a Teams call. I'm doing this code. I'm doing this. I'm doing it. Okay, I need to move this. Like, oh man, that's not working. Okay, and then boom, he go, oh, it's working. Thanks so much. And I'm like, Donovan, I didn't say 2 words. He goes, no. You're a perfect rubber duck. And of course, it goes back to coding about talking your problems or talking through yourself, but you're actually talking to like a rubber duck.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Power Platform Boost podcast, your timely source of Power Platform news and updates with your hosts, Nick Dolman and Ulrike Ackerbeck.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning for both of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're here. Or not here, but they're here.
Yes, I'm in the same time zone. I'm actually in Oslo today. After a week of vacation, and then before that, Dynamics Minds. So, yeah, it's well, you wake up some mornings and you're like, where am I again?
So we've been in the same time zone for like a month already or something?
About 3 weeks, probably.
Yeah.
More or less. Yeah.
That's really cool. And then this week, I'm going to see you a little bit, and then we're going off to Vienna next week. So I'm going to see lots the next few weeks. I'm so excited about that. Very good. So tell us a little bit about Dynamics Minds and your trip. Because Dynamics Minds is like, for those of you who don't know, I've never been. And everyone's like, oh, it's the event. Right. I can't believe you haven't. If you want to prioritize anything, you have to go to Dynamics Minds. So tell me why. What is so special about it?
Yeah, it's strange, right? Because it's like I went for the first time last year, and I went again this year, and again, nothing against the other user groups and community conferences and everything else. They're great. There's just something about this one, and if I had to pick, and it'd be a very hard choice, but I would actually, if I had to pick just one to go to, this would be the one I would go to. And I think it's because there's a couple reasons which makes it special. First off, it's in terms of a conference, it's bigger than your typical Saturday user group, but it's not massive like a Power Platform community conference in Vegas where there's like 10,000 people. I think they have 1,000 to 1,200 people, if I was to guess, in terms of attendees. Of course, a lot of speakers there. So, of course, the content is great. They really try to, I think, as much as the content is very similar to what you see, they also try to put a special spin on it. There is a whole theme around it, kind of a Tim Burton-ish kind of wizard theme around that as well. The keynote, which is usually they open a conference at a keynote, they do the keynote at the end of the opening day. And it was really interesting. It's more than just your average Microsoft VP coming out and telling everybody, here, drink the Kool-Aid, it's awesome. They had this whole little dramatic play thing. It's hard to describe. I would call it a theater piece of sorts. And last year it was all about co-pilots, right? So they had one actor come up. She was the co-pilot, and she gathered her other co-pilot friends, and they were a musician group, and they kind of did a band, and they kind of themed around that. This year, she's not a co-pilot; she was an agent, and they talked about the kind of factory or warehouse of the future. And of course, it had all these people sort of dressed up in kind of worker factory clothes, but they were agents, and they were doing different themes and different little like numbers like that. And of course, and then it was Donna Sarkar and Chris Huntingford. They were kind of the main people of the keynote. So they talked to theirs. They kind of worked their way around through this whole scene. I really can't do it justice to explain it. So I'm just telling you, you have to go and see these things for yourself.
It's one of those things that you had to be there kind of experiences, right?
Absolutely. So in terms of keynote, it's definitely, there's nothing like it. So in terms of the conference itself, a couple things I think you have going for it. The social events it's all first off, you're in a hotel in Portoroz in Slovenia, which you can't just fly into and 20 minutes later you're at the you're there at the venue. You have to fly into some surrounding cities, and it's about a 2 hour shuttle ride to get to the actual venue. So it's hard a little bit. I wouldn't say it's hard. It's not hard to get there. It's just you have to plan to get there, and you have to plan to go home around that. And the organizers, in terms of the speakers, are really good at organizing the shuttles. And if you're an attendee, they have a lot of great information, how to get in, how to get out. And then, of course, you're in the hotel. There's two or three big hotels sort of attached to each other. So everybody's there on site. And then they have the big social events down by the beach. They have these every night with lots of food, lots of entertainment, and gives you an opportunity to interact and chat with everybody and just sort of get to know everybody a lot better. One of Donna's sort of, Donna gives homework all the time in the conferences. She sort of said, okay, make new friends this week. And I definitely made brand new friends and strengthened some other friendships as well. So in that respect, it was really good. And then, yeah, just overall, it has more of a festival feel to it than maybe like a corporate conference or some of these other conferences. And then at the end of the day, of course, everybody, as opposed to everybody scattering, doing their own thing, everybody instead gathers at sort of these beach parties and sort of kind of, reflects on the day, of course, celebrates something like that. So I think that really helps as well. And then, yeah, just in terms of the venue, all the breakout rooms more or less are close to each other with a couple of exceptions. Of course, those are just venue things. But yeah, I absolutely, truly enjoyed myself. Definitely, I'm going to go back again next year. It doesn't conflict with any powerlifting things, although it's happening before the next year's bench press championship, like the week before. So that might make things a little bit more interesting. We'll see. Let's revisit that in a year to see where I'm at. But anyways, yeah, I would highly recommend if you have the opportunity to go to Dynamic Spine. It's definitely worth the money. Yeah. Like I said, not taking away from any of the other events that we go to, but this one to me is there's something special about it.
So did you check out the gym this year so that you know that you'll be able to go before the next they have a good gym?
Oh no, they don't. We
okay.
didn't. Yeah, So we'll have to figure out a few things around there. So like again, that's a whole other. Lots can happen between now and then. But they did announce that they were having it again. They did announce the dates, which I don't have in front of me, but it's roughly about the same time next year. I think around May 26th, 27th week. So definitely put that on your calendars and come check that out.
I'm actually going to check because I asked a few friends who were there to send me, if they announce the dates, send it to me so that I can put it in my calendar right away. And they said May 25th to 27th of 2026. And that's, of course, the day after my birthday. So that's going to be same thing as this year. I'm going to go. I put it in my calendar already, and I'm going to make sure not to miss it. And I think also if you talk to Mira, she's able to fix absolutely anything. So if you ask her to kind of ramp up the gym facilities, I'm sure she can handle that.
Yeah.
But I recognize the same thing as you said, because, AC/DC is one of those events where there is really no place to go. Right. So everyone's at the same place, at the same hotel for a few days in a row. And it's so far away from the Oslo city center that no one really goes to the city. Everyone stays at the same place. And I think that's one of the key things that has made that event so popular, is that it creates a very intimate feeling because you know that everyone's going to be at the same place for a consecutive number of days. It creates a special vibe that I think you don't get anywhere else. So it's going to be very interesting to see if that kind of creates, if it's kind of the same mechanisms at play. And I'm really looking forward to going next year. So that's, definitely.
Cool.
All right. So you had a refreshing week, and then because you had a few sessions, and then you went on holiday, and now we're ready for a week of work and then a week of EPBC. So that's going to be fun.
Yep.
You want to dive into the news? I think the first news item here is you, and a good friend of ours has repurposed old content in new ways.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Steve was at Dynamic Spine, so I had a chance to chat with him a little bit here and there. Steve's a good, he's one of my favorite people, just in terms of his attitude and his sort of just it's really
Yeah.
refreshing. Like it's brutally honest, but in a good way. And him and Mark Smith and George Dubinsky and Yuka Nurnian did a panel, and it was four
Whoa.
bold guys. It says four bold guys talking shit, and I was in a front row seat. You actually had to be because there was you just didn't know what was going to come out. And it was interesting them talking and agreeing and disagreeing, those types of things. And then Steve did mention, and he says, I have a follow up blog post to my mountain of shitty little apps that he did last year. He said a mountain of shitty little agents, and basically talking about, again, where everybody's building apps last year, and of course, how many were used, and talk about the citizen developer. Well, now he's saying, the pitch from Microsoft is anybody could build an agent. So people are going through building all of these agents now. If you build an app and you don't use it, or you use it for yourself and it screws up a few things, that's one thing. But then all of a sudden now, if you have everybody building agents, going out, automating, doing things, what kind of chaos is this going to cause? So I think in terms of like this new era of AI and agentification and everything, governance is going to be such an important aspect to this and the guardrails. And this is what a lot of people are working through. But basically, Steve is very pro AI. He actually is developing code, believe it or not. Like he's vibe coding. He says he's not necessarily building enterprise apps, but he's still building apps for himself, but also recognizes that we do need some professional, like, again, this is business software. It does need some guardrails and things like that. So read through his post. He talks about the different things. And of course, as Steve can do it, he's been posting a lot in terms of different things around AI, a lot of stirring the pot. That's what Steve does. But I think also he does a very good job at creating conversations that we all should be having as we go through this whole AI process. That I've been, like you and I have been talking about. I've been talking about with other people as well, how we're trying to figure all of this stuff out. So it's good to keep these types of conversations going.
Mm. Yeah, and I think he's poking at something that is not talked about enough, is that when everyone creates their own little, because we're taught, this is what we're taught. In the future, you're going to be surrounded by, and your colleagues is going to be agents. They're all going to be autonomous, and then you're going to have the orchestrator, kind of, that is your interface into the workforce of agents. But how does that then work with my set of agents, work with your set of agents? Are they the same? Do we have the same job? Do they kind of stumble into each other's thing? How many overlapping agents do we have with the same knowledge? There's so many questions here. And, how do you do environment and solution strategy around this? What is production really? And there's so many questions now that we haven't really kind of gotten our heads wrapped around yet. So I think the traditional sense of, oh, this is production and this is our pipeline and these, I don't know. It seems to me like it's going to be more of an organic environment where you have your environment. And of course, you have to draw on the same data, but because these agents are autonomous and they can connect to anything, it doesn't really matter where the production data is. So maybe we're in a solution where we have production environment in terms of data, or we have different production instances of data scattered around. And then all the agents simply have access to those production environments, data sources, and pull into my environment and for you to your environment. But then looking at, so I mean, I think we have to rethink what that looks like in terms of our linear production line type thinking probably won't work in the future. So who then has the insight and the kind of the privilege or the, permissions enough to see all of this holistically, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's interesting because this is where we start talking about MCP servers, like agents talking to others, things like that. Now, one analogy that I came up with and I talked about it, and I don't think I talked about it in the last episode, but I know I talked to a few people at Dynamics Minds about this concept. I don't know if you've ever read the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, by Stephen Covey. One of the habits is begin with the end in mind. So when we were transitioning servers, on-prem servers to the cloud 10 years ago, roughly, we knew what the end in mind was. The end in mind was basically that we're going to be using software, but we're going to access it through the internet on our computers. We're not going to have servers anymore. The server will be in the cloud. It's almost like the same thing, but it's this sort of, this was our end in mind. We got it. We totally understood. That was our end goal, end in mind. And then when we talk about the citizen developer power apps, low code solutions, again, we knew what the end in mind was. We figured, and maybe we didn't quite get there in terms of the whole concept, but Bob off the street, who does Excel very well, should be able to go in and create his own business app, and deploy that, whether to himself or to his team. And then that was our end in mind with citizen developers. Yes, they can build apps, or they can build apps to a certain point. Did we get to that point? Not really. Are we using low-code tools? Absolutely. We use those every day. So in terms of that end in mind of being able, we as makers and developers, even low-code or pro-code, or even just developers in general, using that, we knew what the end in mind was. We were creating software. We knew what it was going to look like. We knew what was going to get there. Now we're in the term of AI and AI agents. What does it mean to be building AI agents? What does that mean? To me, I have ideas. I use agents for certain things, but it's still a little fuzzy and it's still a little unclear from where we are today in terms of interacting with software to where we'll be with agents. I mean, I have an app, a Power app that used to be on-prem and I moved it to the cloud just to track my weekly time as a consultant. It's still an app, and I'm trying to figure, how would this be an agent? Am I going to have a chatbot asking me what projects I worked on this week and me just giving it some details and it going and compiling that information and creating my invoicing? Or is it just still going to, but to me, the app just works better than that experience. So yeah, maybe there's agents in the background. Maybe there's an agent that's doing the currency conversion, like a blog post I did a few weeks ago, or how I'm going to interact with it. To me, I'm still typing in numbers and pressing buttons because it's easy. Maybe I'll talk to it. Maybe that'll be a user interface, and maybe that's where we're going. So I don't know. That's what I think is part of it. This is a phase where we don't know what the end in mind really is. Everybody has different ideas. There is no clear vision. This is what an agent will be. This is how it will look. This is what it will do. And maybe it might mean 100 different things, and maybe that's part of the issue as well. I don't know.
It just, my mind can kind of fire it off in 10 different directions just by that one little comment. I 5 of the things I'm going to talk about in the show notes relate to what you just said, and I have my own little kind of comment on how this works. But I just want to say, we're going to go into so many of the kind of the strings that you pulled up just there. But for me, it's also one of those things where I think we need to just embrace the fact that we don't know what the end looks like. Mm-hmm. So in terms of your app, if it's easy for you to type that in, then keep typing it in. I think, if anything, let's, next blog post on the list, Luise Freese, can we just get off the hype already? If it's a flow, it's a flow. If it's an app, it's an app. If it works, if you're comfortable with it, it doesn't have to be an agent. Can we just kind of just take a step back and just go, okay, wow, off the hype, stop thinking the Kool-Aid and actually look at what it is and what it can be used for in a more sensible way? Because I think we're all just riding the wave. And like she talks about LinkedIn and how it's just a big raw kind of echo chamber at the moment. And I absolutely subscribe to that. Now, also one of the things that I saw this week was, and I can kind of just plug that in right here. It's from, where is it? It's from Reza Dorrani, where he shows, another one. Yeah, Andrew Hess shows voice to text with Power Apps using ChatGPT Whisperer, which is exactly what you said. So you have a Canvas app, you want to be able to talk to it, and you send what you use the microphone component, and then you control, and then Power Automate will transcribe it using Whisper, and then it'll give it back to the Power App. And that may be a way for you to enable voice on your Power App, and actually being able to, if you also then have an agent that goes and monitors your Outlook, and then you're a bit more diligent in what you put into Outlook, maybe it's able to kind of scrape your calendar and give you kind of a rough draft of this is what your week looked like. And then you can maybe adjust it, and maybe you can talk to it and get it to give you some insights. But it probably doesn't have to be more complicated than that. But back to my point, if it works for you the way that it is today, you're going to just spin your wheels trying to add, smack AI on top of it. And I think a lot of us do that right now. So let's talk about Luise Freese's blog post, because I think it's perfect to where we're at now. It's your entry.
Yeah, I saw this yesterday. I think she posted it a few days ago, but it's the title of the blog post is "Tired of the AI Hype Machine," where she kind of talks about like all we're sort of talking about now about how people are um, basically people are just sort of making these bold statements about AI will reinvent your entire industry. The companies that don't adapt will die, and here's how I use AI 10 times my thinking. And then you also see, the comments of people just replying AI driven comments
Yeah.
back. Um, and then basically it's just sort of like people are just sort of arguing, and you see these AI experts, they'll kind of take it on. And she has one statement there that just jumped out at me. The AI theater is exhausting. And I totally agree. And I think this is what's stressing people out too. It's like, okay, I should be using this thing. Yes, I have my time tracking app. I should be using AI because everybody's telling me to use AI. And I'm like, but how is AI going to make this better? Yeah, I can talk to it. Okay, that might be a little bit of an improvement, but I know if I start talking to my phone just sort of randomly about different things, I don't know, people look at me weird, or my family kind of says, who are you talking to? What did you want? Like, no, I'm talking to my phone. I'm not talking to you. So, it just causes all these things. So I really appreciated this. She wrote it as an opinion piece. And again, she's into AI as well, right? Like she's very much a proponent, but she even said something like stop solving imaginary problems. And
Yes.
again, this is, I think, what we're into now. It's like, okay, I need to use it, but what can I use it for? It really, and always, apps have always been driven by, I need to do this. So I'm going to write an app to do this, as opposed to, I need something for my app to do. And I think this is where and there are definitely things like, yeah, to getting an email and having it, update my exchange rates. That's something that makes sense to me. And that was something I used AI Builder for. But again, we're still, yeah. Anyways, I could go on, but great post. I love it. Read it. And yeah, help. I think everybody, if we could work to tone down the AI theater, celebrate our wins. I think definitely share what we're building. But just sort of this other kind of hype about you're going to lose your job and this and that. Let's take the panic out of this. Maybe that's my partially takeaway from this too.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And I think, apps also was one of those, well, we need apps over data, right? So it was access to data to see it, structure it, handle it, fiddle with it, right? Now, AI, if you slap AI onto stuff that it's not meant to solve, then you have it doesn't add value. But what I do see adding value is something like Project Sophia, for instance, right? So I've had 2 customer presentations last week where I talked about Project Sophia, and it blows their minds. It's one of those products, and I've talked about it before, and then it kind of went away for a little while, and now it's really coming back up. So if you need, or if you're looking for something new to dive into, Project Sophia is really hot right now. And so what it is, it's in an application where you upload your data set. It could be Dataverse, it could be SharePoint, it could be uploading an Excel file. And then Project Sophia will go in and it will look through your data set, and it will give you an interface based on the data that it sees. So if you update your data set, it will be different every time. And it'll visualize your data for you and give you kind of an abstract or a summary, a narrative around it. And then you can also use the AI cursor to dive more into the specific kind of visualizations that it gives you. So there was a LinkedIn post by Anna, who kind of just went through, because she's now using Project Sophia all over the place, and it was kind of a little video about how she's using it, and it was really good, and it kind of put it back on my radar. And we now have 2 customers asking us to help them set this up, and kind of also have kind of an exploratory workshop, because now the question is, okay, you can upload a data set, but then you have to add a prompt to it. What is it you're actually looking for? And this is a very good use case for AI, I think, because you upload a humongous data set and then you have questions. Okay, so you have a factory line. what is my weak spot? Where do we see problems? Where do you see this going? Can you predict something? You have to have questions towards your data. So it's one of those exploratory workshops or just looking at what kind of questions we have and also what the data set is. So yeah, Project Sophia is really worth looking into. And then I see we have something called new interface for Microsoft 365 Copilot. So this is the Microsoft 365 one.
Yeah, so this is something Lisa Crosby in her video that we mentioned, I think, on our last episode. This was sort of the build announcements, and actually, I basically loaded up Microsoft 365 Copilot, and it had everything, all the apps moved over to the left-hand side. And it kind of looks like, and this is sort of what Microsoft does, it kind of looks a lot more like ChatGPT now. But it has interesting things. We have now the analyst agent, which is pretty cool. I actually went through and made it. So with the analyst agent, it can go through and kind of interpret data. So actually, I used one of the sample prompts just to play with it about creating a table with the volume of planets and add a column to show volume and multiple of Earths. Then, again, nothing I need to present or show to anybody. I just really wanted to see what it could do. And it actually created the table. It did Python code of how it extracted the data, and it showed all of this information in organized format. So if you actually, again, talking about, you can actually have it look at your own files and look at different things. I don't think this is, kind of on the same lines of Project Sophia, but probably a little bit more ad hoc to your data to analyze this. Researcher was pretty cool. Researcher, I have a business idea that I've been working with, and I've actually been using ChatGPT to work on this particular project. I actually took my initial prompt, dumped it into Researcher, and it asked me a bunch of questions because that was part of my prompt to kind of, interview me a little bit. But it created this actually full business plan around my idea, because it even asked me questions that I didn't think of, like, oh, that's kind of good. Like we talked about before, it being sort of a thought partner. Did it do it perfectly? Would I present this business plan to a bank? Probably not. I would go through and fine tune it a little bit more, but it did open up a lot of new things. And then of course there's Visual Creator as well, which has sort of been around before in terms of creating images. It does have the ability to create videos now. I haven't tried that out yet. Like I said, it just showed up the last day or two. So everything it's constantly evolving. For anybody creating content, it's almost like, you can't, because it keeps changing all the time. But anyways, if you do have a license to the Microsoft 365 Copilot, next time you fire it up, don't be surprised. The interface has changed. I find the interface is a lot more usable to me. It has this concept called notebooks, which I'll probably dive into because you and we're big fans of OneNote. I've been using OneNote for years. I don't think I don't know, is this going to replace my OneNote? I'm not 100% sure. But it is something, it is sort of to work better with Copilot and I'll sort of keep track of my information. So we'll see how that evolves as well. So take a look at that, and maybe now people are going to get more value out of that license, which is still pretty pricey. It's about $30 per user per month. So again, it's but yeah, maybe now I think the licensing might have changed as well. So yeah, check out those new changes that they announced at Build, and you gotta be able to try these for yourself.
Yeah, 100%. It's evolving so fast, and I've heard people that have had private preview access to this being so blown away by the Researcher, especially. That has been kind of a game changer in terms of prepping for meetings or kind of getting more knowledge into something. It's really interesting. So moving on to so this is the content from Reza Dorrani that I mentioned. He made a video about agent flows in Copilot Studio and how agent flows and agents kind of, people are a bit confused about the differences. So what he shows is a really good use case of how to use it, how to set it up, and also what the differences are. So if you think about agent being autonomous and non-deterministic, meaning you give it a task, you give it resources, and you give it a goal, and how it kind of goes about finding what to do is up to the agent. Agent flows is more like our automate flows where it's deterministic, right? So it's you do this in a certain sequence, and you can fire off prompts if you want. You can fire off other AI services, but you know the order of which it will perform its tasks. So it's a very good video, I think, and very, very well structured. There's a new video every week, and his tutorials is also really easy to follow. So a very good video for sure.
Yeah, I'll probably dive into that just to. I keep liking these little tutorials and stuff to kind of sometimes, it's some material I've already covered, but to go back because things have changed, then you always pick up a new little tidbits. So just because you've completed a tutorial 6 months ago, sometimes it's worth your time to take a step back. It's kind of a 2-step forward, 1 step back approach. Kind of like we're learning, we're trying to figure all of this stuff out. I've been beginning to refer to myself as an AI pilgrim. On a spiritual quest to get enlightenment. And so on this pilgrimage, kind of going back and checking out new things like that. And also, things just kind of sink in a little bit as well. I think when all of this stuff is happening so fast and there's so many new things every week, just when some kind of letting things just kind of sink in a little bit and then revisiting something, I find then I understand it better. Then it gives me another context, maybe have a new few hooks to put things on. Then I understand it better. So that's really valuable for me, I think. Yeah, and I know I don't have it on the list here, but we're talking about tutorials and stuff. I did go through Daniel Lakovich's MCP tutorial, Dataverse tutorial. For the most part, there is a portion where you connect basically Dataverse to Claude AI. I didn't do that because I needed to, long story, I needed to have an SMS code to activate my Claude account. And I have a data plan that doesn't allow SMS while I'm traveling. So I skipped over that part, but got it working with Visual Studio Code. And wow, like, again, it was just one of these things that, it's a little clunky right now because you need a preview environment and everything. But I was just sort of like, wait a minute, if I can do this, this means this, and this, in terms of we talked about last time in terms of Power Pages development, where ask it to create a fetch XML statement and we have to know the table values. Well, now the MCP server it knows that because you can actually ask it, what are the schema names for this table from a development standpoint, but also you can, like what we were talking about with using Playwright in terms of data, we can get an MCP server to create test data. Which is pretty interesting. And again, I'm thinking integration scenarios. I'm thinking of tying Dataverse now to other systems. Again, it's going to depend on how the licensing is going to pan out, how much resources it's going to take. Or is this, again, okay, that's great, but we could use a data flow or something for that. But anyways, it is, again, one of these, if you're into some of the new stuff and need to understand how MCP servers work and working with Dataverse, that actually is a really good tutorial just to go through those steps and get a good taste, get to a hello world situation with MCP tutorial or the MCP servers for Dataverse. So yeah. Right. Very good.
And then we have, moving on to some ALM stuff, actually. There's a blog post by Howdang on service accounts versus service principals. And Howdang, do we know about, I think the last 2 years, this has been a crazy ride for us. So this is a good blog post or a LinkedIn post where it kind of summarizes the differences, the similarities, when to use what.
Yeah. And this isn't a new thing. This has been around, but I like Howdang, who goes and he keeps giving these reminders of these things like, oh yeah, we need to know, or because our new people coming into the Power Platform are asking these questions like, what's the difference between a service account and a service principal? And you have to think about, okay, which is which again? And why would you use one versus another? And again, he talks about using service principal as much as possible. What he doesn't talk about so much about the service account, but it kind of leads into this, is the Outlook connector, which also I saw a post, and I don't have the link here, but it looks like the Outlook connector got a bunch of new features. But what it doesn't have yet is the ability to use a service principal with the Outlook connector, which is royal pain in the butt, especially when you start factoring MFA and all of this other fun stuff. So, but again, Howdang, I love these posts. Actually, I have a plan to chat with Howdang a little bit later this week. I'm always looking forward to that. He's great to have a conversation with. So great post, and keep these reminders and this stuff coming along. It's a great resource for people both starting out and for people that have been around the block and keep forgetting certain things. It's good.
Yeah, and also, I mean, in terms of the service, so the service account thing has been very top of mind for us this week because we've now Microsoft now enforcing MFA on service users as well. So a couple of new customers has come back to us saying, okay, we need to enable MFA for these because usually when we're in development phase, all the stuff is on secured environments anyway. So we haven't had MFA while we've been multiple people working on something. Now MFA is enforced. And then they're like, okay, so who's going to connect it? And I'm like, well, you can connect one service accounts MFA to different developer phones because we now have the Authenticator app. And that seems to be something that not a lot of people know about. So you can have, I don't know how many, but I know you can have, I think we have 3 or 5 now connected to one account so that, both you and me can have our phones and our Authenticator app connected through MFA to the same service account, meaning that you can still have MFA enabled on those. Because usually I think a lot of them don't, just because so many people use them, right? So that's kind of just one little tip from our side that it's, especially if you use the Microsoft Enter ID. Yeah. That's and also just a little plug. I had a little chat with Howdang a couple of weeks ago, and on his podcast, which where he goes in and interviews people in the Power Platform space. That was really good conversation. Really like catching up with Howdang, and he was also in my workshop at Color Cloud. So I'm really loving getting to know him better. And that episode is released this week, I think. So if we can get our hands on that link, we'll put it in the show notes for sure. And check out all the other conversations on his podcast as well. He's so calm and easy to talk to, creates a really safe space. I really love the way that he kind of goes about his interviews and is so knowledgeable about the people that he interviews, and is really good conversation. So I really like that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to my chat with him as well. It'll be for the podcast, which probably will be a few weeks because I know he batches these things as
he should.
Way to do it. Yes.
Yep. But there are other news in terms of ALM, not just the service account and the service principal stuff. There is a new announcement, or the new default pipeline rules are now out of preview. So what does this mean? Well,
did I post this, or
I'm not sure because I have so there's the two things, right? So there's one link in here that is an announcement blog post by Microsoft, which is Scale ALM org-wide with deployment hub GA and the new default pipeline rule. And then also Matt Colins-Jones published a blog post about the same default pipeline rules. So what it means is that you can now, as an admin, go in and set default pipeline rules for environment groups. Meaning if you're a developer and you're in one of the environment, in an environment group, you will have a pipeline set up by default. That is not the one that comes out of the box, which is not a private one, but is a default one that someone set up. So it will be a pipeline. And what Matt says is that he wishes you could actually set an kind of a host, not just a pipeline. Yeah. So that's another thing. So this is just the beginning. This is probably going to evolve. But this is a way for you as an admin to kind of set some rules and create some defaults for people. So you'll have kind of specific rules that kind of applies to all the environments in that group. And it was also really automatic. So what he really liked that he points out is that I only gave it access to one of my environments and it set everything up for me. So you don't have to go in and kind of manually set everything up like you have to in the custom pipelines or custom suddenly the regular pipelines. But yeah, so a bit more automatic. It's nice to have these rules. So if you have new developer environments coming in, for instance, they will automatically be assigned to a group, and that group will automatically have those pipeline rules. That makes it a little bit easier to manage and govern.
Yeah, and it just sort of also in terms of the deployment hub is, you're trying to find where did a particular pipeline run, when did it run, from all the different environments and stuff. So there within the Power Platform Admin Center, where admins typically would live, they have access to view those particular pipelines and see the run history and those types of things. And that's also a pretty cool feature, as opposed to trying to dive in and find the model driven app. That it's sort of, again, it's a separate, it is sort of an admin thing, to do deployments. So again, it's just kind of consolidating everything that in the new Power Platform Admin Center. I Every time I go into the new Power Platform Admin Center, I'm discovering new little
Yeah.
things. I'm absolutely really enjoying. I think they've done a great job. I really, I probably should go and do proper reading up on it to find out everything. But it is kind of neat that they're going through and giving you recommendations and actions, and of course managing that. And this is one of those things where a lot of times, if a new interface comes out, you're constantly flipping the switch to go back to the classic version. This one, I've turned it on, and in most cases, I haven't had to go back to the old one. I've been able to find either the same feature or something better within the new Power Platform Admin Center. Again, other people might have different experiences. Definitely share those with us, but overall, definitely liking it. And again, that ties in, like the deployments, for example. We can actually monitor the deployments, and see what's failed and what's passed and what's going on.
Yeah, yeah, very good insights. And I'm with you. That new Power Platform Admin Center is just it's awesome in every way. But I'm also one of those people who, as soon as there's a new interface toggle, I'm on it, and I'll stay on it no matter what, and I'll make sure to give the feedback if there's something else. I was on a call with another consultant the other day, and he's like, "Oh, are you using the new interface for Power Automate already? Don't you feel it's crap? I just use the old one." And I'm like, dude, come on. If you're working with Power Automate these days and you're not using the new interface, you're losing out. And your productivity, even though it's buggy, is probably lacking. So
To
just get on the new one. Come
to
on.
to be fair, I'm more of the, I will try, as soon as something's new, I'll turn it on, and then probably in about 2 minutes, like, who moved my cheese, and pop back to the old one. But for
Yeah.
the Power Automate one, I do find that, I am using the new one. The new one, the new one, it's definitely improved quite a bit over the last few months, and it's actually, um, I'm kind of into that camp now. But I do find that a lot of places, when you're trying to do the entry points, it still will show the old interface. So you find yourself in that old interface if you kind of navigate through the Power App solutions. So you got to remind yourself, okay, I need to actually go to the Power Automate environment to order to get the new interface. So just out of habit, because I spend most of my time in the Power Apps environment, I'll end up in the classic interface. So that would be something in terms of an improvement, to give me at least the toggle, the switch, that it can always default to the new interface, because it does have new features and things that actually are very helpful, for the most part, over the old one. I think it's still
Oh,
a few
yeah.
little things which will, everything in the fullness of time will just get better.
Yeah, 100%. And also, it's a reminder to use the right tool for the right job and go through the right interface for the right things. If you're working with Power Apps, use Power Apps. If you're working with Power Automate, I suggest you use the beepin' Power Automate interface.
What if you're creating
Right,
tables for
moving
Power
on.
Pages? What interface do you go through for that?
Oh, tables? That's Power Apps done. It doesn't have anything to do with Power Pages whatso freaking ever. So use Power Apps for any data modeling. Done. Done. Oh, Jesus. Don't push my buttons. Right. Okay, moving on to something that is going to push your buttons because it's fucking time zones. Linn, which we love. Hi,
Oh yeah.
Linn. Created first of all, something that caught my eye, and that was Power Automate convert time zones using an expression. This is Power FX land, decoding the mystery of time zone names. And through the blog post in true Linn style, and this is funny because Linn's blog post is one of those notes to self blogs where he
Yep.
simply just create blog posts just so that he remembers the next time. So, and he's written it like he's written it to himself. It's just a completely, it's one of those things you get to see inside someone else's mind worlds, and it's magnificent. So when he dived into this, because he was kind of struggling with time zones, as we all are, and he thought, you know what, I'm just going to double down. I'm going to figure this out for good. And what he discovered is that the names of time zones is completely bonkers. For instance, you have 2 time zones for Australia, which is it is the same time zone, but one adheres to daylight savings and one does not. Mind blown. Why do you have to make it so hard? And so he figured it out, and then he lost me halfway. Because it's Linn. But if you struggle with time zones and time zone names and trying to understand how it works, then he has a solution for you. So there you go. And also, when I scrolled down to the end of that and looked at the conclusion and everything, he has his little 3 other blog posts related kind of things. And then I saw base 64 and binary file content types in Power Automate blog post, which saved my because I'm working with a customer right now where I have to convert images to PDFs through HTML pages and then base 64 encode them for them to show up in the preview thing at another system. And it's like, and I saw that and I was like, that's why I haven't been able to get it to work. And then I figured it out. So Linn saved my ass. Thanks,
Yeah,
Linn.
and that's a 5-year-old blog post as well. So it goes to show that the older stuff is still relevant. I'll still get comments on stuff I've written like in 2020 or before, right? So yeah, like just because the content's old doesn't mean it's wrong.
Yeah,
Some of the
100%.
stuff is timeless.
It's an old platform. So yeah, 100%. And talking about old technology, Power Pages has had a few announcements this week. It's now, in my head, Power Pages as is kind of completely legacy, and I don't think I'll ever put another list component on the page. What do you think?
For demos or for understanding for stuff like this. But this new announcement for me, when I looked at it first, it was like part of me was, couldn't we always do this? And then I read deeper into it, and I'm like, oh yeah, no, not the way that they're describing. So this opens up a lot of new possibilities in terms of building custom user interfaces. And again, it really goes to show Power Pages is what I like about Power Pages versus Power Apps or some of these other things. It is very developer friendly. It really opens up rips because when someone talks about Power Apps, like, ooh, now you can see the source code in Power Apps. Like we could see the source code and not the source code, but the code behind the pages in Power Pages for a long time now. This opens up a whole new thing in terms of being able to
we need to slow down and talk what it actually is.
Oh, yeah.
We forgot to say what that, So the announcement is you can now create and deploy a single page application in Power Pages. It's now in preview. And what it actually means is that you use Power Pages more as a scaffolding, as the blob thing, and you just put your React code inside it and it works like a 1-page application. Now backtrack 10 years now or something, when I first met you did this. So this was when we talked about Power Pages the first time. I remember you saying, actually, for most project that we do, we use all the benefits of the authentication, the security, the governance, everything that's good in Power Pages. But what you actually interact with on the page is usually custom code, because we just use it as a placeholder, and we kind of inject our companion React or Angular app that is hosted in Azure somewhere into the Power Pages site to do what we wanted to do. So actually, when I saw this, I was like, wait, Inception. Because I was just suddenly back there and I thought, yeah, now that we can vibe code and we can use Visual Studio Code and we can get a Copilot, this is probably the way to go forward with Power Pages. And then we had an internal discussion between us in the group where we went just, should I learn React? Oh, should I not? And what do we do? And is this good or is it bad? What's your take?
It's funny because it does go back to the days of the old the classic ADX Studio product where it was deployed on IIS, and yeah, we did use the list and form components where it made sense, but in more times the client had particular requirements where we needed to create custom ASPX pages that interface with Dataverse sometimes I know the question sometimes came up, well, why bother using Power or, at that time, Media Studio portals at all? Why don't we just build straight up .NET web applications? Well, the reason why you wouldn't do that is because, and it's the same argument today of, well, why not just build a single page application and deploy it to an Azure website?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what we're getting is, for instance, authentication. So we can actually use the regular Power Pages authentication for our single page web app. That saves days of configuration time in terms of building a single page application. In terms of the security, because you can use the web API, the Power Pages web API, so you don't have to worry about all of those, the token passing, everything else. It's all taken care of for you, so you can interact with Dataverse through your SPA as well, using the Power Pages web API. So definitely opens up a lot of new possibilities. It does provide that good, that framework. I still think there's still a mode or market for building the pages and using those components for very functional web applications and things like that. If you don't have those specific user requirements, but if you're in a case where the user interface is important, how things interact with the user interface is very important, this is going to open up a lot of new doors, and also allow to increase better that Fusion team development of the React developers and the Power Pages features and stuff that we all know. In terms of, the vibe coding and stuff too, it's like, again, yes, we'll be able to, I think still, what I'm kind of been in my experiences with vibe coding lately, you still need to have some of that foundational knowledge in order to make sure things work right. But again, the vibe coding, to me, you can start vibe coding knowing nothing, but even if you're vibe coding, they say true vibe coding, you shouldn't even need to look at the code. I'm saying, yes, vibe coding, look at the code, learn from the code, see what it's generating, see why it's generating it, ask it questions. Is this secure? Is this efficient? You as a developer are just going to become better because you're actually now working with, I would say, like someone who's tutoring you through this process, even though it's still your own ideas and business processes. So the next time you want to go create code, first off, you know what prompts to run, but you also can understand a little bit better what's happening. So again, this opens up. So should we learn React? I think it's not the fact that we're going to sit down and learn React. I think we're going to learn whether it's React or some of these other techniques or frameworks, that's just going to come to us because we're going to be in a situation where we're going to ask GitHub Copilot, I need to do this, and it's going to generate code, and we're going to look at it. We're going to go, yes, that makes sense to me, or hey, I learned something. And then the next time it's sort of like, oh, did I set out to learn React? No, but I accidentally learned it along the way.
Yeah, but I have a problem with that. And that is when I tried to learn like that, something that complex, I'm not very good at it. So I recognize, and even now when I look at the React developers that are on my team and how efficient and how well they do things, and I look at my code and I'm like, okay, this isn't completely new, because it is that foundational development mentality, and that you understand how this works and how to create efficient code and all the different mechanisms you learn as a professional developer. I don't think that vibe coding is going to get to that. Also, I don't think I can understand what the code is when I don't have that foundation. So when you have that discussion, I'm at the other end. I go, how many professional React developers are there in the world? Quite a lot. How many people know Power Pages and Power Platform as well as we do? Not a lot of people. If you know Power Pages today and you're looking at what direction to go in, don't go down the React route. Keep on your lane and just dive in and get to know the platform even better. Understand the mechanisms around and on the back and the things surrounding Power Pages. Dive into the security part, dive into the authentication part, dive into Copilot Studio and learn that as best as you can, because you can always get a React developer to come in and help you with the code stuff. That's not where you're gonna you just find your niche, find your little thing that you're really good at that sets you apart and nourish that part. So it's interesting that we come at this from different angles. And I love that we can kind of just talk openly about it and we kind of disagree and it's completely fine. And then you just do what you want to do. But for
But
sure, it is very interesting because I see these pop up a lot of places, and if you look at the conversations I've had with people this last week about AI, the underlying worry and anxiety comes in from a place where do I fit into all of this? What am I going to do? What is my work going to look like the next 5 years? What do I need to learn? What is the skill that I need to develop in order to survive and to have a job the next 5 years? And I think that is probably the underlying anxiety in this conversation as well. As Power Pages people, now that Power Pages suddenly is a placeholder for React code, if you look at it from the extreme, what do I do with my skills? And I'll always come at it from the perspective of, what are you passionate about? What is the thing that sets you apart? What is it that you know that not a lot of other people know? And if that's something that you are passionate about, that's the direction you go in. And don't be scared about because you'll always need people with that kind of key knowledge. So yeah.
And I like that. It's funny because we've talked about this before in terms of career paths and what to learn. I know for myself, I didn't choose portals. I didn't sit down one day like going, I want
No
to
one
learn,
does.
I want to learn how Power Pages works, or I want to learn how ADX Studio portals work. It was more of a case of, no, you need to learn this because this is a project. This is where you need to go. And I think this is some of the AI things too. It's sort of like, okay, well, I need to learn this, but I need a project to focus on and to learn that. And finally, a few of these things are popping up, forcing me to go down different roads with that. So one
So
thing,
true.
yeah. So it's like the Harry Potter thing, right? The wizard doesn't choose the wand chooses the wizard. So
Yeah.
we're going to see this. So again, but also be open, be curious, be open for the wand to choose you, whatever that technology stack will be. And I think because of our experience and everything like that, we're still going to be able to provide a lot of value. But I will agree, it is going to be. We're going to have this conversation in 2 or 3 years. Our jobs are going to be radically different.
Yeah.
And I hope in a really good way, but the thing is also, when we talk about this thing about the single page applications, one thing it doesn't do, which both you and I are good at, is liquid. And it brings us to the segue to the next post that you put from Calum Harrison. You want to chat
Yeah.
about that?
Sure. No, it's actually just how to learn liquid for Power Pages kind of document thing on LinkedIn that he created because he was diving into it and learning it. So it's a really good resource. But I also think that it's kind of becoming a bit obsolete now that we have Web API read access and stuff. I'm looking into some of the old things, for instance, how we used to use the Ajax method to read data from Dataverse and then put it into custom drop downs. For instance, I'm implementing something similar now for a customer. And then suddenly I found, I think it was Oliver Rodriguez's blog post where he uses the Web API to do the fetching. And I'm like, that saves me two web templates, one page template, and one web page. That's fantastic. And I don't have to use Liquid that much. So I don't know. I'm looking at this and going, it's probably yesterday's news, and looking forward, maybe we don't have to use it as much, but it's still, if you're going to work in traditional Power Pages site implementations, Liquid is absolutely valuable to learn. So check out Calum's post.
Yeah. And I still think liquid is very elegant for certain situations as well. Much more less overhead. Like in some cases, yes, like the description you just said about drop downs for sure. But in other cases, you could basically write a lot less liquid code, do a lot less setup to get what you want versus doing the read in the web API. So again, right tool for the right job.
And
So
also the load on, I mean, just to fetch something or to use Liquid to get data from related entities, it's a lot less load on the system than to go to grab it on, before and then, yeah. So it's in terms of that, if you know how to use it, it's really good.
Yeah. Cool.
Right. In the interest of time, let's wrap it up with the EPBC, the conference that we're doing next week. You and me and Victor Dantes has a workshop on Monday about Power Pages. Top Gun is coming back, so you're going to have to get into that nitty little suit of yours. And the Top Gun Ray-Bans are coming on for that workshop. Boost your site development skills and become a pro pilot with Power Pages. And then you and me are doing Power Pages top tips and tricks, which we are now reinventing as we speak, because, oh my Lord, there's been some advancements since we did that session last time. And also you have a Power Pages crash course, co-pilot edition session. And then I'm also on a panel. Andrew Beebe asked me to be on a panel with Joe Griffin, Sarah Lagerquist, Scott Giroux, and me. I think that was it. So that's going to be interesting. And yeah, and if you don't have your ticket yet, which I hope everyone has, you can use Nick10 for 10% off your ticket. And if you go, we have some absolutely amazing swag for you. So your wife, Bridge, brought a very interesting little package to when she came to see you and go on holiday last week. I am imagining people at the airport scanning those luggages went, look, can we look at that again? Did I see what I think I saw? And just zip, zip. Yes, it is 100 rubber ducks.
Oh, you gave it away.
Do you want to show people what it is?
I
You
think
have
I
one
have
nearby.
one. I do, actually.
So if you see us at EPPC, make sure to come by, give us a hug. You'll get a sticker, and maybe we'll give you one of those little rubber duckies. They're so cute. You correct me up. I love it. Right. So do you want to talk about why you ordered a bazillion rubber ducks?
Sure. So what happened, what we talk about, so when you're doing coding,
As if it happened by accident. It's like, yeah, so what happened was.
what happened? No, no, no. So, yeah. So, I mean, like, so you do development, there's always this concept of rubber ducking, right? Where you actually talk to something. And I've had this, when I was at Microsoft, this, Donovan Good, big shout out to Donovan. Sometimes he would just call me in a Teams meeting and like, Nick, I need you to look at something. Like, okay, Donovan, sure. We hop on a Teams call. I'm doing this code. I'm doing this. I'm doing it. Okay, I need to move this. Like, oh man, that's not working. Okay, and then boom, you go, oh, it's working. Thanks so much. And I'm like, Donovan, I didn't say 2 words. He goes, no, 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 no. You're a perfect rubber duck. And of course, it goes back to coding about talking your problems or talking through yourself, but you're actually talking to like a rubber duck.
Yeah.
So I thought, hey, we should create rubber ducks. I wanted to see, can we get a rubber duck with the Boost logo on it? And sure enough, you can.
Yes, turns out you can. And of course, we do this all the time, and every single week. Of course, we're on the same project together. It makes sense. But also for other things, we rubber duck. That's kind of what we do. I just need your eyes and head. Can I borrow your head? That's what I'll say.
Yep.
And I'll use it as my rubber duck. So does this mean I can't use you as my rubber? Because as much as fun as a rubber duck is, I kind of want the in-person experience.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I will still be rubber duckable.
Okay, rubber duckable. I love it. Okay, so what you're going to do now is you're going to use AI and you're going to have it look at our videos, and then you're going to turn us into rubber ducks. So this whole episode is going to be you and me as rubber ducks doing the episode, right?
Yeah, sure. I'll get right on that.
I love it.
Like we don't have 1,000 other things to do before next week, but sure.
Yeah. No worries. Yeah, because we use AI for everything. We have so much time on our hands, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I wonder when that is going to kick in. I'm looking forward to it. You know,
What?
when I'm going to get all that extra time that I'm going to get when I use AI and agents and stuff, because they keep telling me that it's going to give me so much time back.
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet either.
Yeah? No? Okay. Let me know if you see it, because it's not, I can't really say that if anything, I have more to do.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
Time. All right. So anyone listening to this, if you have found where we can go get that extra time that they're talking about, then let us know.
Sounds good.
Sounds perfect. All right. Have a wonderful rest of your day. It's sunny and calm and a bank holiday here in Norway. So I know that you're going to walk around probably and see some stuff and have a wonderful day.
Probably trying to get caught up on work. I've done a lot of
Right.
walking around, seeing stuff in the last week. So now it's
Exactly.
time to get back to work.
Okay, sounds good. I'm gonna celebrate my birthday with my brother at my mom's place today, so I'm gonna go bake some brownies and some rhubarb tarts,
Mm,
and we have the best ice cream, and it's gonna be a lovely day with the kids. So I'm looking
awesome.
forward to that. And I'll catch you this week later, right?
All right. Catch you
All right,
later.
sounds perfect. Bye
Okay.
bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. If you like this episode, please make sure you share it with your friends and colleagues in the community. And be sure to leave a rating or a review on your favorite streaming service. That makes it easier for others to find us. Follow us on social platforms and make sure you don't miss a single episode. Thank you for listening to the Power Platform Boost podcast with your host, Lorika Akabek and Nick Dolman. See you next time for your timely boost of Power Platform news and updates.